Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. I'm Alex Burkett, as always, joined by Matt Whittemore, and today we've got a great guest interview coming your way. We're joined today by Kevin Thueson, partner at KCN Campgrounds. They've got 9 parks all over the United States, and we're really excited to dive in and talk with him about his portfolio, his background, and all that he knows in the camping space. Kevin, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to it.
So why don't you just give people a little bit of a background on you? I know you've got an accounting background prior to coming into the camping industry. Tell us a little bit how you got from accounting to now owning a campground portfolio.
It's the natural transition. You know. So I was in public accounting for just under 10 years in DC and Seattle. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers and had a great career there, and was able to work really closely with some awesome companies, some really great people, some high up executives at these different companies of all different industries and things. And so it kind of gave me a view into how businesses run, how to read and understand financials, how the numbers tell the true story of the business, which is a great foundation for doing what we're doing now and starting our own business. But it was never kind of the intention. I through a series of no real intentional decisions on my part, I ended up in accounting and worked out well. And it really wasn't until I had a friend that gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that in like 2 days, and then read several more. And that was when I got the bug and was like, okay, I'm going to do real estate now. I just have to figure out how. No money, no experience, no patience. And that I think was probably the most impactful factor for me was, the situation I was in where I had to choose either I take a promotion that's going to be, I am all in on this for the long run, and it's going to be a significant step for me, or this is kind of my last easy out. And so the timing all kind of worked out there, but I had to figure out a way I could do it, like just full stop, cold turkey. I'm leaving my W-2, and now I'm full time in real estate. And without any money, I couldn't go out and buy an apartment building or like a bunch of single family rentals, or tell my family, hey, we're going to sell our house and move into a duplex, and then we're going to rent the other side and we'll rehab it, and then 5 years later we'll sell it and we'll do it again, and in 40 years we'll be good. And so I started looking into commercial real estate, and it was the outdoor aspect of RV that really drew me in, because that was kind of my personality, my passion, my hobbies growing up as an avid camper and hiker and biker, and someone who likes to be outside. And I need that. It gave me an opportunity to combine real estate with the stuff that I like to do when I'm not working. So now it's all one, right? And that was really how it happened. And at the time we were living in Seattle and looking to move back to Utah, where my wife and I grew up, and had been looking at mobile home parks and different opportunities across the country, trying to figure out what to do, and came across a listing for a KOA in Utah that had been on the market for a year and a half. Was able to negotiate seller financing, and the terms worked out. And at that time in 2018, we were able to sell our house in Seattle for enough that we had enough capital that we could put a down payment and get the seller to carry the note. And the pieces all kind of fell in place. But the big thing for us was we had to make the decision that this is what we're going to do. And the timeline is where, like, when I look back, this is where it gets kind of, you get that feeling in your stomach, because we sold our house before we had the deal, before anything. So we had sold our house, we leased it back as part of the deal until the end of the school year, end of June. So we kind of started that clock ticking. And at that point, we couldn't have, like, if it didn't work out, we couldn't have bought another house and stayed in the same area. We were priced out. And so we kind of like jumped out of the airplane, and as we're falling, then we checked to see if we had a parachute. But we at that point had done enough research and enough diligence that we felt really strongly that this is the right move. This is what we're going to do. And then we just did what it took to make everything else work out. So got the park under contract, got through diligence, we're able to close that, and quit my job before we closed on the park. So I had that falling apart. I would have been scrambling on, how do we cover the bills for next month and all that. But fortunately, it worked out. And I think a lot of it was we put ourselves in a position where we didn't have a choice. We had to make it work. So we did.
I love that. It's incredible. It really resonates with me because I've decided that for 2025, my mantra is burn the boats. No half measures, no plan B. Just set yourself up for success. So love that. Also appreciate that you went ahead and answered our first like 4 or 5 questions right off the bat. So we'll skip ahead. So you have some partners in your business. Tell us about how that all came about. Did you convince them to get in the business? Were they? Yeah, I believe they're some of your closest friends, right? So were they kind of tuned in from the beginning, or did it take some convincing? How'd that all happen?
So when I started, it was just me, right? My wife said, I support you in this. I think this is a big jump, but I think you know what you're doing. And so we started on our own. And a lot of that was, I'd never done anything like this. I'd never run my own company. I never worked for myself. And I always had a vision of growing it into something bigger. I was not satisfied with the idea of just buying one park and, we'll work really hard for 8 months a year and then we'll go on cruises during the winter when the park's closed. Like that was not the plan. But before I got to a point where I felt comfortable that I could go out to people, because, me, like a lot of others, when you start with your network, right? Your friends, your family, the people you know. And before I ever had any of those conversations, I needed to feel comfortable that I knew what I was doing, that it was a good investment, that there was an opportunity here, and that I could prove myself to whoever it was that I was going to work with. So we had owned our first park for a couple of years. Things were going well. Numbers were up. We were in a position where we were actually able to refinance out of the seller note that we had bought the park with at a lower interest rate, pull equity out, and almost maintain our monthly debt payment at about the same. It was like a $350 a month increase, but we were able to pull money out and partner with my best friend from high school, college roommate, one of the guys that was an inspiration for me in getting into real estate. My partner Cam, who when I went to DC to start accounting, he went to Texas and had built a wealth management firm, but he was doing real estate on the side and had built up a portfolio of, up to like 150 doors between single family, student housing, and apartments. And, for 10 years, I was kind of watching from the background, like, oh, that's awesome. I like super jealous, envious. And, he was back in Utah for family vacation, and we were out to dinner with some friends. And, I just kind of jokingly was like, hey, what you're doing is boring. You should sell all that and let's go buy some campgrounds. And that was kind of like, so we started talking about it, and it took a little bit of convincing, but I think he saw the opportunity. He saw the same things that I did, where the real estate side checks all the boxes. The scalability side was there. Long-term vision of it made a lot of sense. It also allowed to shift away from, your kind of traditional, I'm managing my own units, I'm the landlord dealing with tenants. And, anyone who's operated a campground understands that you don't not have those problems. But it's different. And so the vision was, we're going to build a company, we're going to build a business around this. So that was in 2020. We partnered, we bought 2 parks together in December of 2020. And then, everything blew up in 2021. Things went crazy. And I had a friend from Seattle who I had met through my daughter. Our daughters were really good friends, and went to school together and did youth cheer and all kinds of things. When we moved to Utah, they stayed in touch and actually became really close. And this friend, Nate, who's the N in KCN, he would come with his daughter to Park City to ski in the winter. And we started doing summer adventures with our girls. So we'd take a week and we'd go camping. And in 2021, they came down and we stayed at two of our parks in Utah that we had owned. And so we spent the week mountain biking, hiking. We went on a guided canyoneering tour in central Utah outside of Capitol Reef. We're mountain biking in Moab. And then we went to our other park in Vernal, and we went, whitewater rafting, and we found this really cool cave up in the mountains that had, it was an ice cave even in July, and just doing
Wow.
it was one of the best vacations we've ever been on. And sitting around the campfire at night at the campground, he started to ask some questions like, so I'm looking around, the campground's full. Tell me about the business side of it. And so we went through that, and fortunately for us, Nate was more mature in his professional career and had built some companies and exited, and more of a investor at that point, and able to focus on things that he liked, passion projects. And one of the reasons that we became close friends was because he's the same, right? He wants to be outside, he wants to be hiking, biking, skiing, all of that. And so the conversation just kind of naturally evolved into, hey, if there's an opportunity to do something, I'd be really interested. So the three of us just, we started to talk, and it really didn't take long. This was like a matter of a couple of months, and we said, all right, we're going to do this. And now the next phase is we're going to go for outside capital to scale, to build it to the level that we think we can do, that we see the huge opportunity in creating something special is going to require more capital, a whole different approach. And so that's what we did. We started KCN in late 2021, and 2022 hit. We had raised about $8 million, and we bought 4 parks, and building on it since then.
Incredible. Follow up to that, it's a nice segue. About 8 months ago, there was a press release that caught my attention. Ridgeline Ventures, you guys partnered with to deploy some capital into campgrounds. So can you tell us a little bit how that came to be, and what that relationship is like?
Yeah, it was so we thought that when we first started, so it's now going on 3 years ago, we thought we'll be able to go out, we'll hit up friends and family, we'll build our network, we'll buy some parks, we'll grow. 5 years down the line, we'll have a portfolio that'll start to look really interesting to a larger investor. We can have some conversations about how do we accelerate, how do we throw fuel on this fire. And it was actually we all of our properties right now, the 8 that we currently own and operate, and the 9th that we're about to close on in a couple of weeks, they're all KOA franchises. And that really just stemmed from the first park that I bought in 2018 was a KOA. We met people, we kind of built a reputation within that franchise system, and opportunities have come to us. So that's how we've grown that way. But it was KOA made the connection between us and Ridgeline. So as a family office, they were looking at opportunities in the real estate sector that aligned with what their company values are and their investment thesis, and really liked the idea of outdoor hospitality. And so they contacted KOA, do some diligence on the industry, and KOA made the introduction. They said, you should talk to these guys at KCN. I think personality-wise, there's a good fit. You guys probably like each other. They're really ambitious in what they're trying to do to grow. And so we kind of had an opportunity to accelerate that discussion that we thought we were a few years away from. And it came down to, we could continue to grow at the pace that we were doing. But there was an opportunity could we go further faster with the right partners, which it's kind of how that conversation played out, and it provided us an opportunity to bring them on as an investor in our company and also to invest in the growth of future acquisitions. It put us in a position where we could continue to build our operations team and bring on the right people, the right resources, so that we can scale effectively. It doesn't do us any good to go buy a campground and not be able to run it, or not be able to run it well. So through that partnership, we were able to, we've doubled the size of our corporate staff over the last year. We brought on marketing, construction project management. We brought on an executive assistant. We've hired now 2 regional managers. We promoted our general manager, who was our first hire in 2022, is my brother. And now he's a partner in KCN, and we built out a team, where he was kind of started as the general manager working with all of our managers. Now he has a team that he works with, and we've been able to use that relationship with Ridgeline to position ourselves for the next phase, which is a real accelerated scaled growth over the next several years.
One of the interesting things to me, Kevin, especially just leaning on my background coming from the Jellystone side of the world, not to line up a Jellystone KOA
We almost bought a Jellystone a couple years ago. Didn't work out. We'll get there at some point, but
right. Well, and that was going to be my question. Is I think for both of us and a lot of people in the industry, like, it is very rare that a group like yours would have, as much contact with the KOA corporate team as you do. Just like me as a Jellystone franchisee, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. You're running your own properties and building KCN, but there's also this other incredible team on the corporate level that supports what you guys are doing and trying to make happen. I think it's just sort of a unique perspective you can bring to this conversation. Can you talk to us maybe one about why you went KOA focused in growing the portfolio from the get, and what that communication is like as you guys work with the KOA corporate staff?
Yeah, so it was very intentional. When I bought my first park, it was down to 2 opportunities, and one of them I really liked, but the big differentiating factor was the park that I purchased was a KOA, and I went into it as, I'm doing this on my own. I have no experience. I don't know what I'm doing, and having a franchise partner that has all the systems, that has the people, they've got 500 other parks that they help, those franchisees, plus, some of those they own and operate themselves. That provides me instant day one support that I'm not going to get anywhere else. And so that was a big deal for me. And it was through the relationships that we have there that we've grown the way that we have. So the second park that I bought was 2 miles down the road, or not 2 miles, 2 hours down the road from my first park. And I was driving through town. I saw the sign and I pulled in and said, "Hey, I own the next KOA down the freeway and just wanted to meet you. I heard great things about your park." That conversation turned into 2 days later a discussion to purchase. Right. And so we've kind of leveraged that. And the cool thing for us is you get, it's like anything in life. You get out of it what you put into it. And we've tried really hard to build our relationship with KOA. And that doesn't mean that it's always great or that we always agree on things. But we have the same shared vision, and we've made some great connections with them. We're involved in a lot of the new initiatives that they're doing. We volunteer for everything. We try and get them involved. I mean, we've been able to bring KOA corporate resources to our company meetings and planning and strategy, and talk to them about how do we improve our operations and how do we integrate better. A couple of the properties we bought have been referrals from KOA, where they've called us and said, "Hey, there's a franchisee that is interested in selling, and we think that it'd be a great fit for you." So it's been great for us to have that kind of partner. And, one of the best outcomes of all of that is, John Burke, who was the CFO at KOA for, 16, 18 years, and then worked on the franchise support side for a couple of years. When he retired, he and I had become friends as fellow accountants. I'm more of a recovering accountant now, but we connected on that and worked together a lot while he was still there. And when he retired, I gave him a call. I was like, "Hey, John, you know more about campgrounds than anybody else in the industry from the financial side. Like, why don't you own one yet?" And he kind of laughed, and I was like, "Well, we're about to buy this park. Do you want to invest with us?" And he's like, "No one ever asked me that question before." So we started talking about it. He got really interested, and now he's on our board of directors. And so we have this amazing relationship with these awesome people in the industry, and it really has come from that first decision to, we want to be a part of a bigger thing.
I love that.
Cool. Yeah. I have two really big takeaways from that. One is, for anybody who's listening, who's thinking about buying a campground, you're given a lot of reasons to look at KOA. And two, the story there with John Burke, that's incredible. What really resonates with me is your statement of him saying, "Nobody's asked me that before." I think that's a secret to getting things that you want and making things happen, is just ask for it, because a lot of people are afraid to ask for what they want.
And you never know. And what does it hurt to ask, especially if it's
Right.
something that you really believe in, right? We're not like selling snake
The worst
oil.
he can say is no and just go retire, right? I mean,
Yeah, and we've had some great success with that, even just within the last couple of days. People that we work with who have seen what we're doing and seen the vision and how passionate we are about it. And like our bookkeeper, who now is our controller, she doesn't actually work for us, she has her own company, but she's invested with us. When the person that's doing your books and sees all of that says, "Yeah, I'm in," that's a big validation point. We hired another consulting group to help us with some due diligence on a park, and they approached us and were like, "Hey, this is great. Is there any opportunity for us to join this?" So, to your point, Matt, like, just talk to the people that you know.
Yeah.
What does it hurt to ask? And if you don't believe in what you're doing enough to think that you're adding value to that person, then figure out how to change what you're doing so that it is a valuable proposition. Like,
love it.
Why would I ask somebody to join me in something or to do something if I didn't truly believe that it was going to be of value to them?
Right. Terrific stuff. You've talked about growing the team, the partnership with Ridgeline Ventures, how that allowed you to grow. I love talking to people that are in your kind of approximate stage of growing a really impressive operation. And I always love to ask them, what does your day-to-day look like now that you've hit some scale, you've grown a team around you? What's that look like for you, Kevin?
Well, 5 years ago, I never would have been doing this. So, it changes, and we are fortunate, and we've worked hard, and we've sacrificed a lot to be able to build the team around us so that we can change where we're focusing our time as partners. And there's pros and cons to that. Like, I had this conversation with a group the other day that I miss the days where I was at the park and interacting with guests and checking them in and answering phones and kind of getting that face to face, like, how can I help the experience? How can I be a part of this? And really understanding the pulse of what's going on. That's the biggest thing that's changed. That's hard for me, is I really just don't have that opportunity anymore. But the good thing is we're able to put awesome people on our team that can do that. And we can help try and, craft the culture and the approach. And, we do that through a lot of different ways. But also recognizing, like, I'm probably not the best customer service person, right? Like, someone else can do this much better than me. Let them do it. So, my day, my role within the company, my day-to-day has shifted to where I'm focused more on the business development, the growth side, working with our investors, looking at new opportunities, pipeline. Once we find a park that we're looking to buy, overseeing the due diligence, the acquisition process, working with our lenders, and it's a collaborative effort. I'm not saying that I do this on my own. Our team is involved at all levels of this. So my day to day, a lot of it is focused around those things. And then to the extent that there are operational pieces that I need to still stay in touch with, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of phone calls. I spend a lot more time in my office than I do outside. But the cool thing about what I get to work on now is when there is a good opportunity, I'm the one who gets to go out and look at the park. I get to go out on the road. It does require a lot more travel, which has, upsides and downsides, but that's a really exciting part for me, is to get out onto a campground, look at it and see what the vision could be. What can we do with this? Right. And then working with our team to figure out how we make that a reality and then executing on it. That's really the best part of all this.
Love it. I'm going to put you on the spot here. It's January 2025 right now. January 2026. How many parks does KCN have?
Our goal for this year is 5. So that would put us up to 14, 15 total parks. We're working a couple of different initiatives now. We think that there is, and not just think, we are seeing the opportunity now. We've been expecting this for a couple of years. Just typical investment life cycle plus what's been going on in the macro environment. But we're now seeing more scaled opportunities. So small portfolios, larger portfolios, people who got into this 3-5 years ago, a lot of real estate sponsors, that's their timeline, right? So they may be looking for their exit. There's also people who bought maybe on the highs based in 2021, and that hasn't been what they thought it was going to be, or they realize that campgrounds are not a passive investment and it requires a ton of hands-on and it's more hospitality. And so, there's a lot out there that we think could be really exciting. Some maybe some portfolio acquisitions, which would require a whole separate type of structure and fundraising and investor piece. So those are the things we're working on. But we want to, our target is, 5-6x our size over the next 5 to 10 years.
Incredible.
And whether that happens on a steady pace or, we get some big wins to move us closer to that in a shorter period of time, that's fine. That, the destination isn't as important as the journey and how we're doing it and making sure we're doing it right and getting the right assets, and making sure that our team is involved and excited about what we're doing. But we do have some pretty aggressive growth targets and goals, and it's an uphill battle, but the opportunities are there, and we think we've got the right people, the right approach, the right thesis, and so now we just have to execute on it.
Love it.
As we wrap up here, Kevin, I think an interesting question both Matt and I have is around, us seeing you create content and being a content creator as well, and what that's meant for you and the business. Me with my marketing background, I think it's always something that we like to point out and highlight. And yeah, just wanted to give you a moment to talk about that, because I think you're putting out some cool stuff and think that it's certainly a differentiating factor for you within the industry.
Well, I appreciate that. I can take zero credit for it. To be totally honest, you go back 6-8 months, I didn't have any social media accounts and I was not doing anything, but recognize the importance of that and how it can be something that helps us. And, it's really, the team that I've put around me, that is doing 100% of that work. But the intent behind it is we think that this industry is awesome. We think there's opportunity for everybody. I wouldn't be where I am now without the support of other people and other tools and resources. And to the extent that we can be that for someone else, whether that leads to an opportunity for us, doesn't matter, right? Because it's not like we're approaching this with a scarcity mindset of if someone else is buying a park, then that's one more park we can't buy. There's enough out there. We can support each other. But the more attention we can bring to this industry, I think the more it helps us on the investment side, whether it's attracting new investors or investment groups like a Ridgeline or like somebody else. If we need a large capital partner to go out and do a big acquisition, we want to make sure that people know what we're doing. And, it's been hard for me, honestly, to change my mindset around that kind of content and being out there, because I've always been not that. But, to the extent that we can show what we're doing, why it's a benefit, can it help somebody else? And if it does, then that's awesome. So, it's become a big part of what I'm doing right now. And I'm slowly getting on board with enjoying it.
Well, you're a natural, so we love it.
Again,
always.
Zero credit to me, and it all goes to the team that's putting all that stuff together. So,
love it. Matt, anything else as we wrap up?
So you have a new project we discussed a few weeks ago. Is that, want to obviously give you a chance to plug that with your accelerator, if you want to take a moment there.
Yeah. So, one of the things that has come out of this, kind of side project of trying to put out some content and raise awareness is there's different ways that we can do that. And, I get a lot of people who are reaching out with questions. I'm not necessarily the best expert in this, but I've done it, and I maybe done it in a way that's somewhat unique to other, investment groups or campground owners. And so the idea here is if there's a way that I can help coach people through that process and help them learn from what I've learned over the years and give them a leg up and accelerate that. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to working with those people. And it's really just come out of, I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of people who want to get on calls and talk about things. So can I put that in a format where it becomes more of a community where it can really actually have an impact and, get people who are interested to get off the couch, get off the bench and get into the game and do it. And I think that will help the whole industry. You get new operators involved, new people who are motivated, new money coming in. From the KCN side, it will lead to potential new investor relations. It could be new opportunities, could be a lead generating function for us of new pipeline and things like that. And also a big part of it, Matt, is I spend a lot of time looking at deals, and not everything fits what we're trying to do. And I would love to be able to help me 6 years ago find that deal and make it happen and go through the path that I've been on. So that's kind of the impetus behind that.
Great stuff.
And then, Kevin, if somebody wants to invest or wants to reach out and connect with you to learn more about KCN, is there anything specific we can point them to?
Yeah, you want my home address? I'll just put it out
Love
there.
it.
Yeah, I mean, you can reach me on email. It's kevin@kcncampgrounds.com. My Instagram, Camping Kevin KCN, or on LinkedIn. Or, if you're interested in KCN as a company, opportunities we have, just some background, our website, kcncampgrounds.com. That has a link to our investor page where you can register, and it'll show you previous deals, anything we have open, and ways for you to connect with us so we can chat about it and answer questions.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate your time today and appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Been awesome.
All right, thanks.